Welcome back to the Morning Blend. When you think of an abusive relationship, you don't necessarily think of teenagers.
Yeah, Rhonda Ware is here to talk about this topic. She's the executive director of the Alverno College Research Center for Women and Girls. Thanks for being here, Rhonda.
Thank you for having me.
I think it's a very important topic to talk about and startling more prevalent than we'd like to think than it is. How would you define dating violence?
Teen dating violence is any emotional, physical, or sexual abuse that is taking place in dating relationships involving at least one teen.
I think it's scary to think that it happens in teens. I think so often we associate it as an adult problem and not something that happens to young people.
That's true. And although it's hard to know exactly how prevalent it is because of the lack of reporting, with teens it's actually estimated that 1 in 11 are actually reporting that they're in teen dating violence relationships. What we do know is that of the information that we have, between 20 and 80% of our teens who are involved in teen dating violence relationships are experiencing emotional abuse. And then 9 to 23% are actually experiencing some type of physical abuse or the threat of physical abuse. So it's certainly a problem.
What are some of the signs that parents can look about? Because I think in general the topic's very scary. You don't want to think it's happening to your teen. You don't want to think it's happening to one of their friends or happening at all. But the fact is it is. So what can you look for? How can you determine that this might be happening to someone you know?
That's a great question. There are several signs. If you're noticing that your child is being very defensive and they're fearful of their dating partner, that's a sign. If you're noticing they're spending a lot of time with them and hardly any time with their family, that's another sign. If you find that they're apologizing for their behavior, that's another sign. And then obviously if you're seeing any type of unexplained bruising or injuries, that would be a sign.
It seems like if this was happening, teens would be so much more likely to tell a friend than their parent or an adult. What if your child confides in you that maybe they're not being abused, but their friend has said that they're in an abusive relationship? What should you do as that parent of the child who's been confided in?
Well, certainly listen to them, believe them, and then you can give them tools. You know, encourage them to believe their friend when they're telling them they're involved in a teen dating violence situation. You can reach out and get them resources in different community organizations that deal with relationship violence, such as a Sojourner Family Peace Center or the Women's Center, to get some tools. In addition, I would encourage your teen to talk to school officials about it to get some additional tools of what they can do. And finally, I would actually tell your teen to tell this young person who's confided in them to tell an adult, because it's important to get an adult engaged in this conversation as well.
What if it's your child? What if they're the ones either telling you that they're being abused or you just sense those symptoms?
You know, I again would encourage, listening. That's the big thing. A lot of times when teens aren't reporting, they're concerned that adults just won't believe them. So listen to your child. Let them know that you believe what they're saying. Again, reach out to community resources so you can get some real tools to help your child. It could be mental health resources, it could be education resources, but get someone else involved who can really help you with that. And continue to be supportive of them through this whole process. If they're thinking about leaving that relationship, really support them through that. They may need to come up with some safety planning, so help them do those things. But just continue to be engaged.
What's happening out there? Is it like, especially as it relates to the emotional, maybe psychological abuse, is it kind of like a control thing? Like, because I always think about abusive relationships that the controlling or abusive partner is kind of trying to isolate that partner and make them feel like they need that person, and that it seems like there's jealousy involved, and there's an effort to control what that person does and who they see. Is that a lot of it with teens?
It is. When you're looking at emotional abuse, different manifestations would be things that you're talking about, trying to isolate them, separate them from family and friends, the name calling that's impacting their self-esteem, and it is a lot around power and control, jealousy, anger. So again, if we know those things, though, we can start talking to our teens early about really finding more positive ways to deal with those issues before they get into dating relationships.
I think it's important that people have a resource to go to if they suspect it or if it's a friend or whatnot. So we want to make sure everybody has the website for Alverno as well. It's alverno.edu/research. And there's also an email address that people can use if they have questions or concerns. It's research.center@alverno.edu. And I would bet that you would recommend people to use their resources, as you said, and not hesitate, even if there's a slight idea that this could be happening?
Absolutely, absolutely. Always use your resources. And another great tool to use with your teens before they even start dating is educate them on what a healthy relationship looks like, as well as an unhealthy relationship. And if we can do that, we're going to go a long way to help prevent teen dating violence.
That's wonderful.
Great information.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank you for
Appreciate your
having
time.
me.